Something about this Nürburgring weekend feels different. And people inside the paddock are starting to notice it too, because while most Formula One drivers are spending this weekend resting between races, Max Verstappen just threw himself into one of the most dangerous endurance races on the planet. The Nürburgring 24 hours. 24 straight hours through the green hell. Night racing, changing weather, traffic everywhere, and absolutely no room for mistakes. But here's where things start getting interesting. Before the race even began, rumors started spreading through the paddock that Verstappen Racing might already have an advantage nobody expected. Not because of raw speed alone, but because of the way they played the entire weekend. The first signs appeared during practice sessions. Max looked fast immediately, but not overwhelmingly fast. The team stayed strangely quiet. No huge statements, no aggressive runs, no attention-grabbing pace. And in endurance racing, that usually means one thing. They were hiding something, because at the Nürburgring 24 hours, going too fast too early can actually hurt you. The organizers constantly monitor performance through something called Balance of Performance, or BOP. It's designed to keep different manufacturers competitive by adjusting weight, power, and restrictions. If one car looks too dominant, penalties can come fast, and that's exactly why what happened after qualifying raised so many eyebrows. Several of Verstappen's biggest rivals suddenly got hit with adjustments. Extra weight, reduced power, smaller restrictors. Meanwhile, the number 3 Mercedes-AMG, driven by Max Verstappen, and his teammates escaped untouched. That changed everything. Over a normal sprint race, a few kilograms might not sound important. But over 24 hours around the Nordschleife, every small disadvantage becomes massive. More tire wear, worse fuel efficiency, slower acceleration, tiny losses that build lap after lap after lap. And now people in the paddock are starting to wonder if Verstappen Racing played the perfect game, not by dominating early, but by staying just invisible enough to avoid attention. But the BOP situation isn't even the most fascinating part of this story, because Max's car is running something almost nobody expected, a completely different suspension setup compared to the sister Mercedes entries. Most AMG teams at the Nürburgring use the standard Bilstein setup, reliable, proven, safe. But Verstappen's car is running multimatic dampers and springs instead, a setup that Max personally pushed for after testing both options himself. Now officially, insiders claim there's no major performance difference between the two systems, but nobody fully believes that. Because if there was truly zero advantage, why take the risk before the biggest endurance race of the year? And that's what makes this entire weekend feel so different. Every decision around this car feels intentional, calculated, almost secretive. Even Max himself seems different here. Over the past year, Verstappen has become increasingly vocal about his frustrations with Formula One. Especially the incoming regulations, he's openly criticized the direction of the sport, comparing parts of modern F1 to arcade racing instead of pure motorsport. But when he talks about the Nürburgring, his entire tone changes. You can hear the passion immediately. This is the kind of racing Max grew up loving. Dangerous circuits, unpredictable conditions, real risk, real consequences. No easy laps. No guaranteed control, and honestly, it feels like this weekend means more to him than people expected. The reaction from fans alone proves it. For the first time in the history of the Nürburgring 24 hours, the event completely sold out. Every weekend ticket gone. Massive crowds everywhere. The Verstappen Effect completely transformed the atmosphere around the race. Organizers were reportedly so concerned about crowd control that Max was advised to avoid certain public appearances entirely. Not because he didn't want to meet fans, but because the scale of attention became almost impossible to manage safely. And then came qualifying, a tense multi-session fight under massive pressure. Traffic everywhere, tiny margins separating the top cars. One mistake and your lap disappears instantly around the Nordschleife. Max eventually secured 4th position on the grid. And honestly, that might be the perfect place to start. Not stuck deep in traffic, not carrying the pressure of pole position. Close enough to attack, but hidden enough to stay out of the spotlight during the opening hours, because surviving the Nürburgring isn't just about speed. It's about patience. Weather changes can destroy races instantly. One code 60 zone can ruin strategy. Nighttime visibility becomes brutal. Fatigue starts affecting everyone. And with over 160 cars across multiple classes sharing the circuit, chaos is almost guaranteed at some point. That's why winning here means something different. You're not just beating drivers, you're surviving the green hell itself. And now the biggest question of the weekend is impossible to ignore. What happens if Max Verstappen actually wins this race, not years from now? Not eventually, right now. On one of his first real attempts. Because if he conquers the Nurburgring while openly questioning the future of Formula One, then suddenly this stops feeling like a fun side project. It starts feeling like the beginning of something much bigger. And honestly, that possibility is exactly why the entire motorsport world is watching this weekend so closely.